I found this playlist that was named Sitting on Rhysand's Lap Drinking Faerie Wine. And I was like, such fun. Sounds like a cool character that you want to spend your time with and sit on his lap. And now the context is, ew.
You're listening to Getting Fae'd. We,
Meike,
Lea,
and Lukas are reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the very first time. Today we're discussing chapters 39 and 40. Get Fae'd with us!
Woo! You guys.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing fine,
That's
fine,
good.
thanks.
I brought a little audio file for you guys.
Oh.
Because currently the Mufasa press tour is going, and I think Mads Mikkelsen is playing the evil lion. I don't know anything about the plot of this movie, but
Isn't Scar the evil lion?
yeah, but in this movie, Scar and Mufasa are friends. They're like brothers. It's like a prequel.
They are children.
Yeah, it's not that important. I didn't actually want to talk about the movie, but about Mads Mikkelsen and an interview of his. Because in one of his interviews, he presented how he does the lion roar or lion growl. Mm-hmm. And I found it, first of all, very impressive that he could just do it. And second of all, I found it very interesting in the context of like, he growled. And to imagine that would be the sound that comes out of it. And I will show you this video now.
Show us, and afterwards we can all try our shot at this. And it might be a bit disturbing for you listeners,
Yeah,
but I
I
don't
think
care.
it will be.
That sound. And then I show my fangs.
Okay, that was impressive, but I think I got it.
Go for it.
And then I show my fangs.
Why does he sound so derpy afterwards?
Because he's just a cute
doing
guy.
this lion sound, and he's like, and then I show my face.
Because he's just a cute guy.
I'm just a cute guy.
Do you want to do it or shall I?
You go.
Okay. I think he inhales first to do the sound and then
Yeah, I
shows
don't
his fang.
Wait, we have to set the scene. I'm Faerie now. I did something unspeakable, and now I'm like, Tamlin, I dropped my soup bowl.
And then I show my fang.
Okay, Michael, you go, Tamlin, today another man looked at me.
I tried the inhale thing. Can I say I don't think it sounds like a lion what he does?
What
Like
do
the
you
last
think?
part sounds like a pig.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. This grumbling
Yeah.
in the end.
Oink oink.
Maybe we've disturbed our listeners enough. And we might proceed to disturb our listeners because, Michael, when you finished today's chapters, I remember you said, you turned to me and said, I think this is my new chapter 21. Do you still feel like this?
Yes.
Okay. Then maybe let's get into this.
Well, before we do, should we maybe have a recap of the last two chapters?
Well, Lea, if you offer to recap, go ahead.
I actually do not know what happened the last time. I have no idea. Oh, she had to do chores that were
Yeah.
impossible.
First of all, our boy Rhysand came in her cell and they struck a bargain.
Bargain.
He healed her in exchange for 1 week of her life.
She offered him, or he demanded like 1 week of every month. No, he demanded more, but she discussed him down to 1 week every month where she belongs to him. And then they sealed it with a tattoo. And now she has a sick arm sleeve tattoo. And then
Badass.
she had to do some chores that were impossible, but somehow she did it because people helped her. And she found herself in Rhysand's room, in his bedroom.
Ooh la la!
And there he revealed to her that he is a bat. He's Batman.
He can shapeshift into a nice little bat thingy.
Well, not a little thingy. I mean, he has like leathery wings and some talents for some reason, which is quite a disturbing picture.
We haven't really seen his true form because he says he likes to shift only parts of him, right?
Yeah, do you think, I mean, is Tamlin's beast form his true form? I think the true form is like when you see through the glamour.
Yeah, well, I meant the true shape-shifted form.
Maybe he really truly does only turn into a little bat. But yeah, that's basically the end, I guess.
Yeah. So then chapter 39 starts in Pharaoh's cell. Where else? But now, that's the part we didn't recap, but Rhysand threatened the guards to treat her a bit better. So now she gets a fresh and hot meal every morning and evening. So that's Rhysi's doing. Very nice. But, and this is a fun quote, I gobbled it down, but cursed Rhysand's name anyway.
Mood.
She's sitting there like, yum, 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 stupid shit, fuck you, Rhysi.
It's her character.
Yeah. Relatable.
Yeah, so she's there for a couple of days. We have a couple of time jumps. And she sometimes even starts talking to the eyeball that's now tattooed on her palm. And sometimes starts cursing herself or Rhysand. So she's going a bit mad-ish. Relatable.
Yeah. I think we do get a time frame. Doesn't it say like 4 days have passed?
Yeah, 4 days.
Yeah.
And after these 4 days, 2 high fae females appear in her cell, and they are very knightish. They too have night rippling off them, and they like appear in the cell and take her away.
Ooh. Yeah, I noticed in these chapters I was confused again about the difference between high fae and fairies.
Me too.
Because she explicitly describes these servant fae like as they're not fully corporeal and they're like not like a pointy-eared dude.
Yeah.
But like different.
Rhysand, it was described that he is a shadow cloud shortly, but then forms into his true form. But they just kind of stay in this wobbling in-between state.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, are these like night court fairies? But she explicitly calls them high fae.
Yeah.
But then later she calls them fairies, which confused me.
Like I had these categories in my mind, like high fae are like the normal people and fairies are like, they are different. They do not look like normal people. You know, categories work very simply in my brain. I'm sorry. But yeah.
I mean, that's what the book told us.
Yeah, and
I
now
thought.
she's like muddling these things. And I'm like, is this important that I differentiate between this? Or is it like, doesn't it matter? Yeah, I do not know what's going on anymore.
Very confusing.
Well, then they grab Faerie, and not only do they leave, but they take her and walk through the door as if it wasn't even there. And for a moment, Faerie too feels like a little shadow. And I thought that was pretty cool how they can just transfer their powers by touch.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
guess. Well, then these fae or fairies take her to a room where they proceed to strip her, bathe her, and then paint her entire body, like up to her neck. Her face only gets quote-unquote normal makeup. And she has now a look where they like continued the patterns of her flowery, knightish, liney tattoo over her whole body. I guess that's a vibe. And at this point I thought, smart. Because I thought that Rhysand was still trying to keep the fact from Amarantha that he did struck a bargain with Faerie. And I thought, if her whole body looks like this tattoo, she can't really see that there is in fact a tattoo.
That's cool. Yeah, that would have been a nice plot.
I don't think I was able to think about anything except how horribly written that scene was. Because there's this one sentence that made it sound so bad for Faerie to be like bathed and dressed by these people that just kind of broke me. Because she goes like, so I just stopped demanding answers. I stopped fighting back and let them finish.
Yeah.
What? That sentence just makes it sound so bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Spoiler, this will not be the only horrible thing that happens to Faerie in these chapters.
No.
I was just like taken aback because it was so random.
Yes.
Yeah, I just didn't expect it. I mean, which I guess is a good thing. You want to surprise your readers. But it was just like, what? Yeah. But she describes herself as, like, first she describes how she has this regular makeup on that you said. And then she says, from the neck down, I was a heathen god's plaything. And I was like, okay, this is a very strong description, which, like, brings with it, like, strong and bad imagery and not that like what's happening to her is bad. But then how she describes what she looks like, she says, they had continued the pattern of the tattoo on my arm, and once the blue-black paint had dried, they placed on me a gauzy white dress. And I was like, that doesn't sound very heathen-like. It's just, I don't know, this doesn't fit like the heaviness of that first sentence. I don't know, I guess I imagined something more feral after that sentence.
And it appears to me that this protagonist is stripped down by servants and bathed against her will is kind of a Sarah J. Maas thing, because I think that's not the first time this has happened in this book. And also I just started reading Throne of Glass. Yes, I know. I'm like 3 chapters in. But already in these 3 chapters, this scene happens to the protagonist in Throne of Glass. I mean, it's not funny that this happens, but it's interesting that Sarah J. Maas apparently likes to write about this.
But also I think something similar happens in like the Hunger Games novel, where she's brought to the capital and then stripped down and like made beautiful and like waxed, and all her hair is removed, her body hair. And I don't know if it's a trope per se,
Kind of.
but it's like, oh, you're brought to this fancy place against your will, but you're made pretty, so you look like everyone else here. And I mean, in this case, she does not look like everyone else here. It has a definite purpose to show possession, which is bad and icky. Yeah.
I think this whole bathing thing is just very ambivalent in like olden times, because usually servants would do your bathing and your clothing, so they would usually see a lot more of you, and people just didn't care because servants didn't matter, I guess. So I don't think like the fact that she's getting naked in front of strange people is the issue, but that it's like forced on her.
Yeah. And the way it's described, I mean, I think it says they forcibly scrubbed me down
Yes.
or something. That
It sounds pretty
painful.
violent.
Yeah. But also like her get up, it's not like, oh, I'm fancy and belong to this court. It's like very revealing. And it just reminds me of designs for like female video game characters or for these AI mobile games where like, especially the form of the dress with like these small strips of cloth above your breasts, and then they merge to one cloth that hangs over your private parts in the middle and reveals your legs and the sides. It's so cliche. I don't know.
If that is Rhysand's fantasy, nah, bro, it's not it.
Oof. Big oof.
Rhysand actually gives an explanation as to why Faerie is painted over her whole body, because he wants to check if somebody else touches her, because that would smear the paint.
You guys, at this point, I wrote down my comment for whatever I thought about this, and I noticed I used this comment quite a lot in these 2 chapters, and this comment was bruh.
Yeah.
Very fitting.
Like this sentiment, I need to see if someone touched my belonging or whatever. It's an immediate turn off. Aura minus 1000.
The character is once again so confusing, like it was with Tamlin in chapter 21. But here it's even more like different, like the one side to the other, because he's like, oh, nothing can touch my belonging. And then he flicks her nose. And that is, again, such, like, you do that to a child, don't you?
That was so weird. Like in the first reading, I didn't even catch that. And then when I made my notes, I was like, he flicks her nose? Like, what the fuck?
This is easily among the top 10 weirdest things Rhysand does in these chapters.
But she says, like, I don't like my belongings being tampered with. And, like, I know before I was, like, hanging on his every word and was like, oh, Rhysand. And, like, with that sentence, poof, all the sexiness gone.
Yeah.
Like, I drew a sad emoji in my book
No.
because I was just disappointed. I was like, meh, this is not what I read into you before.
I mean, to be fair to this book, like, this is supposed to be the villain,
Yeah, I
so
know.
it makes sense that he's evil. But then again, and I think we talk about this more at the end of this episode, I think I can see some clear enemies to lovers thing starting, so we might get deeper into that later.
Yes.
How we feel about this. And then Faerie thinks about how Rhysand apparently thinks that the bargain, this 1 week every month, lasts her entire life. I mean, yes, but this occurs to you now?
What did she think? Oh, maybe the next week.
But anyways, just for one moment after this kind of strange scene, I want to invite you to another edition of Conspiracy Corner.
Ooh.
Lea, give us your best jingle.
Do, 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 do. Conspiracy Corner with Lukas.
Ba-la-la-la-lu.
Rhysand comes in, sees her, and says, "You look just how I hoped you would." And then there's this quote, "From the cobwebs of my memories, I recalled similar words Tamlin once whispered in my ear." And let's just think back to episode whatever, like 12 or something, where they had their date on this picturesque little glen, and then Faera thinks in her inner monologue, "Oh, Tamlin looks like I hoped he would." And then Tamlin says to her, "You look just like I hoped you would too." And we made this big conspiracy that maybe Tamlin accidentally read her mind or purposely read her mind and accidentally spilled that. And now this is brought up again by the book.
This is so good that you caught that.
Doesn't Faerie even catch it?
Like she acknowledges that he said that, but she doesn't like think anything of it.
Yeah, I was like,
Okay,
when
so
I
what's
read
your
it,
conspiracy? That our conspiracy from once back is right.
Yeah.
well, I was like when we talked about that, we were like, oh, she closed her eyes and she could only hear what he says. And I think my mind went to, ooh, is someone else there, or is someone pretending here? Maybe was it Rhysand all along, or was Rhysand controlling Tamlin or something like that?
I have thoughts on that too, because I wondered, how does Rhysand know? This feels like a calculated move. Like, why is he saying that? Did he see it in her mind when he was looking inside to find, I don't know what he was trying to find, because he speaks about Faera thinking of Tamlin, so he saw some thoughts about Tamlin. Or is he using it to show Faera that he is somehow in contact with Tamlin? That he's like, I know Tamlin said it, and now I'm saying it, and you like Tamlin, so you should like me, because we're working together, or something like that. So is he using it as a sign?
I don't think he's necessarily using it as a sign, but I think it is possible that he saw it in her head and was like, ooh, that made her like Tamlin. So I'll say it too, because that will make her like me.
So I thought that Rhysand did not like use this, but it was just a coincidence, but that in my head Sarah J. Maas used this to kind of remind us of this like thought reading thing, to just in like a meta perspective put Rhysand and Tam on the same level of shady mind reading. So my conspiracy being, I think there's something, I don't know what it is.
Wow.
I just wanted to point that out again.
QAnon would be proud of you.
I mean, I remember when we like posted that reel on Instagram of this conspiracy we had, follow at Getting Fae'd Pod. Like a lot of people who know the ACOTAR books commented like, oh, what's this? Like, we didn't catch this. What the fuck?
True.
So I don't know if this will like actually be resolved. And this,
Maybe it's like subliminal messaging or something.
yeah, I don't know. That's just, I think there's something there. Let's just move on with the chapter,
Okay.
maybe. So they go to a nice little party. Yippee.
Yippee! Yippee-abadoo!
But not so much yippee for Faera, because she's brought to the throne room. Again, and like obviously feels very exposed because her dress does not leave much room for interpretation. A side note, the music they play is described as queer.
Yeah.
So I guess.
Chappell Roan.
Well, obviously, I mean, she means strange, but I think it's interesting that she feels the need to point out that they play weird music.
And it's the second time. Like when she was first brought to the throne room, she was like, the music they listen to is like they're in a trance. Maybe the music is another
They are
thing.
just so uncultured people under this mountain that they hear shit music.
No, I just think they are fucked up people and hear fucked up music.
What in your mind is fucked up music?
Oh, this is dangerous ground.
I don't know how to
But that
describe
fits.
it.
I mean, that fits people that live under the mountain.
Yeah, I think it's just like a fast, rhythmically weird cacophony of some strange sounds, like some shrill violin music mixed with bagpipes in a 17-13 polyrhythm. That's queer music for me.
They're just listening to free jazz, and Faeries
Yeah.
like, huh? What?
Maybe also
They're
that.
not uncultured at all. They're just very cultured.
And Faerie just doesn't get it. So as it turns out, they celebrate Midsummer.
We're halfway through the year already.
Yeah, which just kind of, I think this is supposed to give us an inkling of how much time has actually passed in this book. And when Amarantha sees them, she asks, "What have you done with my captive?" So she's kind of pissed. And then Rhysand just tells her what happened. He's like, "I struck a bargain with her, 1 week of her life every month," which very much surprised me because I don't understand his game whatsoever.
I mean, Feyre thinks about, he said that he wanted to wait for the right moment to tell Tamlin, to hurt Tamlin the most. But I actually think that he wants to get to Amarantha. Because when he announces the terms of the bargain, he isn't focused on Tamlin at all, but he's fixed on Amarantha. I think he either wants to make her jealous or just wants to piss her off because he actually does not like her. And I guess angering Tamlin is just a nice side effect.
I agree that he wants to kind of taunt Amarantha, but I just don't get why. I mean, I think he's working against her, but so openly. She's so much more powerful than him, so he must still feel secure in his position, but why taunt her like that?
I think the more interesting thing is even why she lets him be this way. Because as you said, she's much more powerful. She took some of his power, but still he seems to have a lot more freedom than anyone else does under the mountain, and he's getting missions from her, I guess, in a way, and we'll get to that later in the chapter. But why is she letting him be this way?
The thing is, everyone calls him Amarantha's whore. And I think, naturally, because of this word, we assume they're sleeping together. But maybe they call him his whore because he just does her bidding. And maybe she's like, okay, I need his powers. So as long as he does what I tell him to do, he can act up. Or they have this kind of relationship where they like to tease each other. Or she's like, I have my boy Tamlin now, and I'm working on getting to him. So get your own shit.
Get your own plaything.
Yeah, or I have so many theories right now. Maybe she's show Tamlin that this human girl has no interest in him anymore. So seduce her or force her to be with you so that Tamlin will give in to her advances.
So she's trying to break Tamlin's hope in Faerie.
Maybe. There's so many possibilities. He could just be not very smart, which I think we had this thought before, and be very reckless with his situation. Or he just simply does what she asks him to do. And I mean, we know she is a very good strategist, so maybe he just does what she tells him to do.
Yeah, it's strange. Well then, Rhysand announces that she is his for 1 week a month for the rest of her life. So we get confirmation that this is how long the bargain will apparently last. And then Faerie thinks to herself, he said it as if it was going to be a long, long while. And I know that she probably means, oh, he has faith in me that I will survive these tasks. But for me, this is just another seed planted that plays into the cards of our little theory that maybe Faerie will become immortal somehow.
Immortality!
At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
It also is another dig at Amarantha to be I think she will live very long. You thought she would die yesterday. But I have faith in her that she will solve all the tasks and live forever, I guess.
Yeah. Then, as just a fun side note, before we get into the depressing part of the chapter, Rhysand has an elegant nose.
Good to know.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, I think elegant is such a specific word
that's
and
true.
not very applicable to a nose. If it was a pretty nose or a quaint nose, then you would think with quaint maybe a small nose or...
Maybe it means not too broad and a bit smaller and maybe straight. Yeah.
Really, I would have said not straight.
Nothing about Rhysand is straight.
Well, then Faerie and Rhysand go on mingling on the party, and eventually she actually does drink the Faerie Wine. The Faerie Wine that Alice warned her of. But here I don't want to give Pharaoh too much shit, because I don't think it's like explicitly stated, but did he mind trick her to like force her to drink the wine?
Yeah.
Because in the book it says, "Drink," he said, and my traitorous fingers latched onto the goblet.
Yeah, I think he's like controlling her.
Yeah, he forced her. What a kind man.
And then the next part is when she wakes up in her cell and doesn't remember anything.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
The first sentence of the next part after the chapter break being, "I awoke in my cell," I was like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. We can say that much. But I was like, no way that is happening right now.
Yeah, that was my next bra moment.
I was so scared for her. I was like, no way.
That was
This
really
is not
bad.
the book we're getting now, is it?
Yeah, very bad. Bad Rhysand.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, that part was... But then on a good note, the next evening, after like vomiting a lot and feeling very sick and hungover, someone appears in her cell, and it's not Rhysand, but it's Lulu.
That's such a bro move. I love him.
Yeah, I immediately felt better when he appeared.
Yeah.
When I read that he was there, I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, thank you.
Foxboy Lucian, and it gets better. He like points out that it's freezing in there, and then he gives her his coat.
That he just took from a guard. Like, why did he need to take a cloak from a guard?
He was like, oh, that looks fancy. I'm going to take it.
That's so random.
Maybe he's just a video game protagonist and he just knocked out the guard. I mean, then he had to loot him.
You guys, today when I played Baldur's Gate, I jumped from a ledge and landed next to a skeleton that I wanted to loot, and my impact threw it in a chasm and I couldn't loot it anymore.
Aww.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. Are you okay?
No.
I think that's the equivalent of when you fell a tree in Stardew Valley and it falls into a puddle of water and all the wood disappears.
But they fixed it in the new update.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, at least the skeleton wasn't like the main villain. Like, there were a lot of corpses to loot. But some of them only had like a knife or a candle. And some, like the mages, they had like magic shit. And that was the skeleton of a mage. Yeah.
Anyways, Lulu gives her his coat because, like, does she still wear the dress?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's so inconsiderate of Rhysand.
Yeah.
He just, like, took her to the party and then threw her into this freezing fucking cell. Rhysand, I'm very disappointed in you.
Yeah.
And she, like, still has the paint all over her body and then points out to us that only, like, some parts on her waist is, like, disturbed in the paint. So she knows that she's, in big quotation marks, only been touched there.
He's such a respectful man. You guys, go Rhysand.
That's just so gross.
Yep.
And then Lucian notes that apparently Rhysand did this all to get to Tamlin, and I guess also to Amarantha, but that it didn't work. Tamlin was not pissed off, and I think he just knows him that well, because I doubt that they, like, talked about this, but apparently it didn't work, and that's, I guess, great.
That's the thing. Like, he tells her that she was dancing probably very erotically. And her first question after hearing this is, did Tamlin see? Like, this is your concern. Oh no, was my boyfriend inconvenienced by witnessing how I was violated?
Yeah.
But we also learned that when she was not dancing, she was sitting on his lap drinking wine. And I was like, we finally have context for the playlist that I found in the beginning that I actually never listened to in fear of spoilers.
That's right.
Because, like, in the beginning, I was searching, like, what ACOTAR content does already exist, maybe, and I found this playlist that was named kind of like sitting on Rhysand's lap drinking Faerie Wine. And I was like, such fun. Sounds like a cool character that you want to spend your time with and sit on his lap. And now the context is, ew, I I'm sad now.
After this recording, I kind of want to listen to that
Yeah.
playlist and find out if
Yeah.
the songs are like sexy songs or if all the songs are like men suck, men violate women, we hate men.
Yeah.
I fear it's sexy songs.
Probably.
Maybe we can like give you guys a review and reaction over on Instagram and
Yes.
TikTok.
Maybe like if this enemies to lovers story takes place, then that becomes their thing later, and she always sits on his lap and drinks his wine. It sounds a bit like she's like drinking, like he's breastfeeding her.
He doesn't give milk, he gives Faerie Wine.
That would be really funny.
That's a secret power.
That's what happens when he transforms fully.
Rhysand sprouts Faerie Wine from his nipples. Nice.
I have wine nipples, what do you have?
I can't paint.
I want to marry your daughter. What do you have to offer her? Nothing, only this. So, after that, Faerie and Lucian actually get into kind of a fight. Because Lucian, as he likes to do, kind of blames her for taking the deal and gives her shit for striking a bargain with Rhysand. And he says he would have come as soon as possible. And Faerie defends herself and says that she would have died if she didn't take the bargain. And I think she's correct.
I honestly don't like them both in this scene.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I hate it when Lucian blames her for stuff and makes her problems his problems and gets really weird. But the way she tells him that she would have died, she's just blaming him. She's like, oh, you said it yourself. You didn't think about coming to save me when the cereal was there and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this is so unnecessary. Both of them are acting out so unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Like, be nice to each other. I love Lucian and I want to like Faerie. Be nice.
I mean, I like that Faerie talks back, but then she goes on this questioning her ability to trust him.
Yeah,
because
Lucian's being unfair and she's being unfair.
Yeah, I agree.
I think after Lucian risked his life in Task 1 and basically accepted death while being tortured for her name, I think he has earned her trust.
That's the thing. I agree totally with you that she doesn't argue her point really well, because he brings this up. He's like, I risked my neck for you doing your task. Was that not enough? And I'm like, yes, that is enough. But that is not the point, my man. The point is, because you helped, she feared that you were punished and you wouldn't be able to come. Which is what actually happened. Because he was lashed and then he hurt so much that this is the first moment that he can visit her. This is like 6 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would have been dead.
Lucian is like, hey, here I am. I could have healed you right now. But Faerie would have just fucking died.
They are not really good at communicating.
No.
But they are good at making up in the end in a
Yes.
kind of cute way, because they both apologize. And Lucian says, I'm glad to see you didn't sell your lively human spirit or stubbornness to him.
Oh, yeah.
And that's actually kind of cute.
Is it in that part that they talk about, oh, well, I have to now spend like a week every month with him. And then he's like, we'll see about that later. Because what do you think was he like going on about? Was he like, when all this is over, we'll get you out of that. We can like amend this. We can change this. Or is he like, oh, Rhysand will not leave it at 1 week?
It would really depend on how he said it. This is where like the whole audiobook or no audiobook thing comes in. I feel like Lucian would rather be on the whole, we'll see about that later side. But I think in this moment, it's more of a, I don't trust Rhysand. And I'm not sure if he will keep the bargain. Like, he will make you be true to the bargain, but he will not.
I thought he was like, fuck Rhysand, I would just kill this bastard if he takes you. And so we see about that later. But it's nice to see that Lucian believes in a later.
Yes.
That's good, yeah. I mean, even though he annoyed me a little bit in this argument, he's still like the best of them.
Yeah,
I
he's my
really
spark.
like him. Yeah, he gives me warmth in my heart. Good fox boy.
Us Virgos gotta stay together.
So then we get confirmation of what we already suspected, that Tamlin is in fact not under any kind of spell or took a potion to keep him dull and quiet, but he just has really good composure and apparently does his poker face to not reveal when Amarantha is actually getting to him when she's like torturing Faera. Mm-hmm. Boo-hoo, I hate Tamlin, let's move on. So after that we get a little montage and time jump. No, I shouldn't say it in this voice because it's actually a little horrible montage, because we learn that this bathing, painting and partying goes on every night from now on. And at one point she says that she mercifully drinks the wine to like rid her of all the horrible memories. That's just heavy.
Good times. But that he does it like every day makes me think that Amarantha likes it. Like if Amarantha didn't like it, like what? I don't think she would let him bring her every day.
I have no clue what's going on. I really have no idea what his plan could be.
Yeah.
I keep trying to make up something where I'm like, that's where we're going. But I have no clue. He's wearing her out. He's kind of scaring her. Like, if he was trying to be an ally, this is not the way. But he's, like, openly speaking as if he's trying to defy Amarantha. But his actions are kind of, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on.
But maybe he just has the good of them both in his heart, because at least every night before she gets roofied, she can give Tamlin a look where she puts all her love and pain in it, so that he knows she's not Rhysand's girl. Yay!
Yeah, I have no fucking idea what his plan is. Maybe he has to pretend to torture her in front of Amarantha so that she believes that he's evil.
I had to do this to you, because otherwise she wouldn't believe me that I was her whore.
This is just...
Maybe he just should not speak up against her in that way then.
Yeah, like here in this chapter, Rhysand just feels not fun evil, but evil. And I don't like that, because I want him to be fun evil.
That's the thing. Like, what is evil? It's like icky evil. It's really disgusting. Like, I think I gave Tamlin a lot of shit for being boring, because I thought, his gentlemanness is so boring and whatever. And like in my mind, where Rhysand's character was going was like, I'm fun evil, but now I find this girl and she intrigues me. She gains my respect when she fights these tasks. And now I want to get to know her, and now I treat her right. That was what I thought would happen.
It's what happens often. I mean, she's defying a trope.
That's true.
I guess good for you, Sarah.
But at what cost?
Yeah.
I mean, we did hype him up. Like, that was our fault. I think we imagined him in a way that he probably might not be.
Yeah, I think maybe I hyped him up this way because, I mean, I get like glimpses of the fan community. And I think, like, this is dangerous half knowledge, but I think that he is a very beloved character in like the fandom. And I think that I see like at least Faerie Rhysand shippings.
Yeah, I think he can still win me back, depending on how the story progresses. Like with Tamlin, he would have to work really hard to win me back and be on his side.
But Rhysand, he just needs to wear a white wet shirt.
No, he has to wear a black shirt. I'm sorry.
But then you can't see the muscles
But
if
when
it's
it's wet, it's clinging to the muscles.
Okay, it would have to be wet in like really good lighting so you can see the muscles.
Rhysand in a white shirt would be like Dark and Raw in this one time travel episode where he has this weird white tunic and it's just, no, this is not your color, my man.
Shout out to everyone who got this reference. So then the next like chunk of the chapter, I feel like is dedicated to plant some seeds for Rhysand's character and like future relationship to Faera. And then one night when she's done being painted, he comes in and they talk for a bit. He reveals that the second task is to be tomorrow. And she seems pretty confident that she's gonna beat the task. So good for her. Her spirit is not broken.
I'm proud of her for still being so
Yeah.
strong in mind and body, I guess.
Yeah.
She's holding on. I think a very interesting quote in this part is, I wonder if you were this prickly with Tamlin when you were his captive. Because this really paints the parallel between Rhysand and Tamlin, who are, at this point, kind of the same person in Faera's life.
That's true.
Like, Tamlin took Faera, Rhysand kind of took Faera. I mean, she went there, but they took her captive. And then he was interested in her, Tamlin was interested in her, and spoke to her, kind of got to know her, and then sort of mistreated her. Chapter 21. And now Rhysand is actually the same person, so we're kind of exchanging one weird person for the next weird person that is kind of the same. And I think this is why I'm so confused. I mean, a book is allowed to tell the story of horrible people if it has a meaning and if there's a sense behind it. But here, once again do not understand why Rhysand is acting the way he is.
Yeah.
Because he's not appearing as a better choice, but he's also not appearing much worse than Tamlin. Because I'm not like, oh, she should just go back to Tamlin now, I love Tamlin. Which could have been her intention, but it doesn't read like it. But I also don't think, oh, Rhysand, he's the man. Which is sad, because I wanted that.
I think his plans will probably be revealed.
I hope so.
Otherwise, what the fuck? And then there will at least be excuses.
They have to be real good.
Yeah.
What follows this quote is that Faera asks about when Night Court fell. And it's kind of similar to the way Tamlin talked about Spring Court falling and like the responsibility he now has and he didn't want. And Rhysand is like, oh, I have a responsibility for my court and I did a lot of things, but none of that is your concern. So even there was a parallel. And I'm like, why? I don't want Rhysand to be like Tamlin.
But talking about this point of how like the court fell, I actually want to make like a little subtext interpretation / prediction of the relationship between Rhysand and Tamlin. Because what kind of comes out of this conversation is that Rhysand's court fell because he just pledged allegiance to Amarantha, even though maybe he didn't really see eye to eye with her like views on the world and her ruling style. So he basically gave his court up. But Tamlin, on the other hand, was the last court standing because he didn't see eye to eye with Amarantha. So I think that Rhysand is maybe just a bit jealous of Tamlin.
Yeah.
Because Tamlin could do what he couldn't do.
True.
And there's one quote about Tamlin and his court. He's like, if he'd bother to learn about cruelty and what it means to be a true High Lord, his court wouldn't have fallen. And then Faera's like, well, your court fell as well. So to me that kind of reads like Rhysand might even have like an admiration for Tamlin, even if he doesn't want to show it.
Yeah. The thing is, he believes it makes Tamlin weak to be like, I'm a benevolent ruler. But I mean, maybe both of that can exist. Maybe like his conviction is to be a true ruler, you have to be cruel. But he's jealous because Tamlin was able to do it while being kind.
Yeah. I think he wants to convince himself that Tamlin is weak. But I think he maybe starts to see that it might not be the case. I mean, in like the context of this book, Tamlin got the girl they both like, with his like style of doing things.
Both girls. Like Amarantha also wants to have him. Like this could also be a potential point of jealousy on both fronts. Like it could be jealousy like, fuck, Amarantha wants him now. Or it could be jealousy like, he still hasn't given in to her advances, like he apparently has.
Yeah.
It might maybe even be, and this is, I guess, a bigger conspiracy, because what you just said makes sense, and what I'm gonna say just
is a conspiracy
something I make up in my mind, which could also be because I want them to have a bigger backstory than they have at this point.
Go ahead, Lea. Give us the jingle.
Oh, I'm not sure if it's jingle worthy.
Let's try. Boom, ba-doop, ba-doop, boom. Conspiracy Corner with Meike. Beep, boop.
I guess you could also read this quote as Rhysand being like, if Tamlin had agreed to being cruel, meaning if Tamlin had agreed to my idea, which maybe at some point when Amarantha came along, Rhysand was like, Tamlin, unite with me. Us two bros against her. We can, I don't know, kill everyone in her court, kill, I don't know who, is helping her, and Tamlin was like, no, this just sounds like civil war or something. I'm not going to do it. And then Rhysand saw his only way to be like, okay, I'm going to pledge allegiance to her and fight from the inside. And then he was like, maybe Tamlin can fight from the outside, but Tamlin doesn't really fight, or maybe just for himself. And now he's like, no, this guy and I, we could have fought together and slain her together. Me and my boyfriend.
I think this was, in fact, jingle-worthy.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm so excited to see how all of our theories turn out.
Wrong.
The other day, I listened back to like an earlier episode. I think it was like episode 6. And we had predictions in this. Like one prediction was, oh, Tamlin has to make Faera fall in love with him for whatever reason. Then like, yes, this is the curse. We're so onto it. Then like in the next sentence, we're talking about how Winter Court biologically engineers some hybrid children, and Faera's one of them, and she's a weapon. So I'm really excited.
This hasn't
what
been
this
proven
is.
wrong yet.
I just wanted to add,
Bioengineered Faera confirmed.
still possible.
I don't even remember making that conspiracy, but sure.
What I found interesting was that he's like, ooh, do you even want to come with me, or would you rather like spend the night with Tamlin and have one last night? And I really liked how Faye was like, I'll have that night and all the ones after when I beat her final task. And I was like, you go, girl. Yes, Faera's standing up against Rhysand. And I like that she does not beg. She's still strong. Stay strong, girl. For us.
Yeah, and then like this interaction ends with a very interesting quote. And I think we could just talk about this for half an hour again. I think we're not going to, but maybe we are. This is going to be a long episode. Deal with it. You have more content for free. So, sucks to be you, I guess. The conversation goes like, you saved my life. And through your life, I saved Tamlin's. Why? He winked. That, Faera, is the real question, isn't it? And then I just put 15 question marks in my notebook. Because, like, this obviously teases to some sort of motive Rhysand has. Lea, you look very confused.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about a different quote.
Okay, I guess there's another cool quote.
No, but I agree. I was like, what? His plan was to save Tamlin all along? But I was just like, his plan was to save Tamlin all along. Gay. But did he say something before that? Can you read the quote for me again?
So the full quote, Faera's like, what do you want with me beyond taunting Tamlin? Taunting him is my greatest pleasure, he said with a mock bow. And as far as your question, why does any male need a reason to enjoy the presence of a female?
That was the quote I was talking about.
Okay.
Barf!
He's just turned into a right-wing incel at this point.
But he has a right wing and a left wing. So
I'm a male and females and I own them.
how did Andrew Tate get in here? This was so convincing.
I don't know.
And then the whole you saved my life and through your life I saved Tamlin's. Why? He winks, smoothing his blue hair. His black hair. He has blue hair.
That was my reaction exactly.
He has that anime hair. I don't think it's blue. It's more like,
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like
It's
Like
so
inky
dark.
black.
Yes.
But I also love the quote, like, taunting Tamlin is my greatest pleasure. I was like, sure it is. Yeah, I was just like, hi, it's gay. It's gay again. What the fuck?
Honestly, I think the fact that Rhysand is so confusing to us gives me hope that this is some kind of act.
Yeah, my point was with this quote, I think this confirms something we hoped, and that is the fact that he has a plan.
Yeah.
That's was like my whole point. So we can just leave this 20-minute discussion behind us and maybe
Yep.
move on to the next part of the chapter. After this conversation, they walk to the throne room. But there's not a party, but a strange scene unfolds. And a male High Fae is on the ground before Amarantha, and like the High Lord of Summercourt is beside him. Are they like, is this his son? Did I read that right?
A member of his court.
That's the thing. Amarantha calls him Summer Lordling.
Yeah.
Which,
So I thought
to me,
he's like the heir.
first I thought it was just like the Lord of Summer
Yeah.
Court. And then she describes the Lord of Summer Court was standing right next to me. And I was like, so it's his son? Because Lordling seems like a princeling or something.
Yeah.
And then it's just because it's a fairy, it can't be high fae, I guess. But it's also, again, unclear. Thanks, book.
Anyway, so like some guy of Summer Court is like kneeling in front of Amarantha.
And this is where the book gets diverse, because apparently Summer Court Fae and fairies have brown skin.
Diversity.
But I actually kind of dig the vibe of the High Lord of Summer Court. His hair near white, eyes of crushing crystal blue, his skin of richest mahogany.
Mahogany?
Mahogany! So yeah, I guess they have a vibe, and I appreciate that. But I didn't get, does he have white hair because he's just old? Or do they all have white hair?
I have no idea.
Are they Valerians?
House Valerian, yeah. So the youngling apparently tried to escape under the mountain through the spring court, and then Amarantha assigns Rhysand to read his mind to get more information. And Rhysand says he wanted to escape into like the mortal realms, and he was the only one involved and no accomplices. These were Rhysand's words. Amarantha decides that she will execute this fairy, or fae, or fairy, or whatever, but tells like the High Lord that he can do with the body whatever he wants afterwards. So give it like a proper burial. How nice.
When I first read that, I thought she said that to Rhysand. I was like, is he supposed to bury it? What are these connotations? But then when I made my notes, I was like, oh, he's like giving it to Summer Court.
And who's better to do the job than her personal whore? So she says to Rhysand, shatter him. And then this Fae gets a rather quick death. He like just drops dead, and like blood is leaking out of his ears and nostrils and eyes, and it's pretty horrible. But he didn't suffer. And then Amarantha just kind of snaps at Rhysand and says, I meant shatter his mind, not his brain. And then Rhysand is kind of like, oopsie, and walks away. Obviously, to me, this read like he did this on purpose, because he maybe just didn't want this poor Fae dude to suffer. So this scene kind of manifested again that Rhysand seems to have some other motive.
But Amarantha should be more clear in her instructions, because she's like, shatter him. And then later she's like, I said shatter his mind, not his brain. Like, no, you didn't say that.
That's the thing. Like, sometimes she seems like a bratty little girl, but on the other hand, like, I feel like she gave this instruction probably quite often already, and that he now is like, I just popped his brain instead of his mind.
Instruction unclear, sorry.
That also seems more like a technicality and not like an actual misunderstanding.
So let's get into chapter 40. And let's do it quickly because we're all hungry.
Hungry.
Yeah, task 2.
Woo!
Well, you're wooing, but it's actually not that spectacular.
No.
So she's brought into a room smaller than for the last task and even smaller than the throne room. And Amarantha first asks if she solved her riddle yet. Faerie does not even answer that, because we all know that she's not good at riddle solving. It wasn't that funny.
It's funny in the context of this chapter.
And Amarantha, as the nice, considerate lady she is, wants to offer her some practice. So then we know that this task might be... What?
I understood it now. My first note for chapter 40 is, I don't understand her taunt. How about a little practice?
Yeah, she is.
Oops.
Maybe it does you some good to venture out of YA books for a change, Lea.
I have read other books. It's just been a while.
Anyways, that kind of means that there might be a riddle involved in this task. Which also means that it's just not as spectacular as the last one. So, Oh yeah, and then like Tamlin and Faerie have like a staring contest where the room goes awkwardly silent.
That was
That was
funny.
very funny.
Yeah.
That just happened, I guess. They have like a long look.
Look.
It's kind of cute, actually. If I wasn't against Tamlin, I would have been like, "Aw, she's just standing there looking at him and she gets so lost in her longing." But I don't like Tamlin, so I'm like, ugh.
Same. So then the floor on which she stands is lowered into a rectangular pit.
Why does she have so many game arenas? What is her hobby?
What do you think they're doing for the whole month except dancing at night?
Apparently have games at game arena.
Yeah, I just wrote down these tasks are all very pity.
How pity of her.
I wonder what pit the third task is gonna be. This like pit that she's lowered into has smooth stone walls that she couldn't climb, and an iron gate like splitting the room in two. And behind this iron gate, shackled, is our fox boy Lucian.
No!
And as if that wasn't enough, the spiky ceiling starts to lower.
Glowing hot spikes.
Yeah, the hot spikes are being lowered, so she knows she has to do something. Otherwise, they will both get crushed.
Do you think Lucian being part of this task will have an effect on his mother? I guess I'm just very interested in his mother. I liked her, this little scene we saw her in. But I just thought she was already pretty mad at Amarantha. I mean, mad enough to help Faerie after Amarantha threatened to hurt Lucian. He is like part of the task and he could have died if Faerie messed up. Spoiler, she doesn't. If she messed up and Lucian would have died, he wouldn't be dead.
I agree that it would be interesting to see what that does to that family. I mean, the brothers obviously love it. But I'm not sure if she was mad at Amarantha. I feel like she had an obligation and like a life debt to pay. I mean, this could coexist with like anger at Amarantha for killing her fucking son or hurting her son. I mean, I feel like he was already hurting. It wasn't just a threat. I think Rhysand was actually torturing him.
Yeah,
Like mind
he was
torture.
getting into his mind, right? Yeah, what I meant was it was enough for her to go against Amarantha.
Yeah, that's true.
And now something worse is happening.
Yeah.
And I think it would be cool to have his mom as
Yeah.
We
an
might
ally.
see her as like an important player in the future.
That would be awesome.
And honestly, this moment kind of got to me because I really think he might die now. Because
Lukas! What? Sadness.
Because a couple of episodes ago, I like offhandedly said like, oh, and Lucian might also be the lovable side character that has to die to move the story forward. And at that moment, and also just a couple of scenes before that, Faerie and Lucian had like a nice talk where they made up and tied some ends together.
You're right.
Are you speaking like when you read it, you thought he would die in the task, or are you saying you think he will die in like chapter 42?
No, I'm saying when I read that moment.
Oh, I think Lea and I misunderstood you. Because I
I thought you meant at this point you believe
He will
that
die
he will
soon.
die at some point
No.
next.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
I was so confused while you were like, what? No! I just say that this moment when like the grades lowered, I thought, might this be the end of Lucian?
But I actually think you make some good points. Because
Thank you.
they did have their reconciliation. And I want to remind you, we were thinking about loopholes in the bargain. And we were like, yep, she is allowed to take everyone from Spring Court with her. And Lucian is from Autumn Court. I have to say, when she was lowered and we found Lucian behind those bars, I thought her task was now to fight against Lucian. Which I thought was horrible. Like, no.
Poor Lucian.
Poor Lucian.
What? Oh, I thought that was leading somewhere.
No, I was just...
I thought you were gonna make like a pollution pun or something.
Pollution. So yeah, they do not fight. Instead, Amarantha is a little riddle girly.
Yeah, so there's like a riddle carved in the wall. Let me just say, carved in
so
the
much
wall. They went out of their way to carve this task into the stone.
They just have some craft groups and they're like, now we can finally use our skills.
Do you think Amarantha thought of those tasks beforehand? Or was she like, oh, well, I'm just going to kill her in a fight? And then she was like, well, she can't solve my very easy riddle. I'm just going to give her another riddle. It's kind of unfair that, like, her loophole out is a riddle, but then also her task is a riddle.
Yeah, but like the production design of this task
Awesome.
is just, it's great.
But I mean, that would explain why the second task is so much more low energy than the first task, because she had thought of this first task and thought Faerie would die, and now she's like, fuck, now I have to think of a second and maybe even a third. Oh no.
Speaking of low effort, there's like one sentence in there that I would have changed because it made me laugh out loud so hard. I think it's gonna speak for itself. I'm just gonna read it. The metal groaned as it scraped against the smooth stone of the chamber, and the fairy's whispers grew more frenzied. Through the holes in the grate, I thought I saw Lucian's eldest brother's chuckle. Hot. So unbearably hot.
Yeah, I had the same association.
I know she's talking about the hot iron spikes, but
Yeah, she like looks at the brother and she's like, oh, that's so hot.
She was like, ooh, I'm so smart. Double meaning.
I loved that moment.
Yeah, maybe this is foreshadowing like a relationship between these two.
Oh, God.
Anyways, underneath the riddle, there are 3 levers in the wall, and they're like numbered with 1, 2, and 3. They have like Roman numbers, which is kind of funny, but also convenient, because maybe Faerie doesn't know how to read numbers, and she can count eyes.
The lines.
She turns to Lucian and goes, 1, because she can count eyes.
Okay, I will do this. What? I'm done.
So apparently the riddle like gives indication on what lever she has to pull to stop the grate, but she can't read the riddle because she can't read. And I thought this is like really cruel of Amarantha, but as it turns out, it's just a coincidence.
I actually have to admit, I always forget that Faerie cannot read. Then when that comes up and becomes an issue, I'm like, oh no, she can't read. Oh my God, this is so good. Because I never expected. But I mean, I know in the beginning you were like, oh, I hope this actually has real consequences. And it does. Yay. That's cool.
I just thought it was pretty funny that just Amarantha happens to choose a task that is impossible for Faerie because she doesn't know.
Well, Amarantha can be lucky too. But where I was like, not confused, but like, where I was like, Lucian, what are you doing? Because Lucian is like, answer it! And he screams that. And that is unnecessary. Like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm not gonna answer it. He also seems a bit like, I mean, I know his life is in danger, but I feel like that reflects upon his whole character, and he's just a little bit annoying.
Also, does he know she can read?
That's what I wanted to ask. After that, I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't know, because was he ever like present when it came up?
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
think so. Yeah, it might be that Lucian just didn't know. But true, the advice to just answer it is no good advice.
And then he goes like, just pick one.
I mean, better than doing nothing.
Yeah, but give her some time. I mean, they weren't that close to death at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
At least he like recognizes that she cannot answer it for whatever reason.
I just
And then
want to know what the question was. Because she can make out like
Grasshoppers.
the grasshoppers. And because the answer being 1, 2, or 3 just kind of feels like it's a math question.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
3 grasshoppers go out to the city, 1 gets thrown over by a bus, 1 gets food poisoning. How many are left? 1.
Faerie then concludes that she must just guess. And the way her thought process works
Jesus!
is so funny that I just like to read the entire quote.
That was the best moment ever. It was so funny.
1, 2, 3. They meant nothing to me beyond life and death. 2 was a lucky number, because that was like Tamlin and me. Just 2 people. 1 had to be bad, because 1 was like Amarantha or the Atter, solitary beings. 1 was a nasty number. And 3 was too much. It was 3 sisters crammed into a tiny cottage, hating each other until they choked on it, until it poisoned them. 2. It was 2. I could gladly, willingly, fanatically believe in a cauldron and fate if they would take care of me. I believed in 2.
Yeah.
Her logic is just the most blatant monogamy propaganda I have ever read.
I love how this worm fight was actually kind of fun and epic.
Yeah.
While this task is just incredibly silly.
1 is nasty.
That's the best thing Faerie has ever thought. 1 is a nasty number.
I don't know, it felt pretty silly, but I want to read some deeper meaning out of that, because this is just taking away from the next page, but it will be level 3. Rhysand will be the one to guide her towards level 3 and to be like, oh, I think 2 is so good, it's just Tamlin and me. But then actually it being the number 3, opening the possibility for a love triangle.
Yeah.
And Rhysand being the one to show her the way that maybe there's more to this world than just Tamlin and her.
You will show us the way. Oh. Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yep, same.
Very symbolic.
So the way Rhysand guides her is with the help of the 2 essentially, because as Faerie suspected, there seems to be a deeper connection. Because she reaches to level 2, but then feels a stinging pain in her hand. And then she tries to reach to level 1 and it's also a stinging pain. But then level 3, no pain. And she has no choice but to trust him. And she chooses level 3 and the grade stops.
Yeah.
And just like that, a very unspectacular task ends. Also unspectacular to observe. She eventually pulls the right lever. Great entertainment.
But Lucian kisses the ground. He's so happy.
Jesus!
He's so dramatic. He didn't do anything. Then he's like, oh, thank you, God.
Well, I guess that's the entertainment.
I mean, he really just barely survived.
But he does kiss the ground. I feel like that's more of a thing when you come back from a boat or something. He's relieved.
I'm relieved he's alive too.
Yeah.
And then the next part of this chapter, how she really is about to just break down and cry because all the emotions are so overwhelming. But then a little sexy ASMR voice in her mind just gives her a step-by-step tutorial on how to stay cool in front of Amarantha. And Rhysand guides her. Stand up, keep your cool, look at her, turn around, and just leave. Maybe it would have been better to read if you wouldn't say stuff like, good girl.
To me, it just read Faerie just likes to be told what to do. And it's especially with this good girl thing, it's very loaded.
I mean, what I liked about the scene was mainly the part of she can't take it anymore and is about to break down, because I feel like that's pretty relatable in that situation where you almost lost your life.
I guess I like the idea of someone noticing that you are about to break down, but also acknowledging that it's okay that you are, but this is not the room for it. It wouldn't do you any good to do it now. So the other person just talking you through it and taking you somewhere else. But the way he does it is...
And then back in her cell, she finally breaks down and just weeps for a couple of hours. Relatable. This is a lot that she's going through. So good for her to not keep her feelings locked up inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she has a very depressive spiral that obviously has to end in, I would never paint again. Just throwing that out there.
But then Rhysand shows up and my voice is already trembling because something happens. And I can just guess that it's another kink. No kink shaming. But he then says she should stop weeping. Crying is unnecessary. And he proceeds to just lick her entire face dry. What the fuck?
Why are all these men so weird?
Faerie is too startled by this to defend herself. He just starts with one tear.
It's so random.
And then he just keeps licking. And it's just why would you write this in there?
I guess being weirded out by it is not even kink shaming because Faerie is disgusted. Because this doesn't read like something that is pleasant and nice to have. It's just Faerie is like, that was disgusting. She says it outright. She's like, bro, that was disgusting.
But then he's like, but I could feel that there was something stirring in you, so I guess
licking as a sexual thing is not something, what? Where does she come up with that? But for her to have like a full-on panic attack and spiral, and for his response to be like, oh, I'm just gonna lick your face. And I was very disappointed by that because I have to admit, I am a huge sucker for scenes in which someone has a panic attack and the other person talks them through it. Mm-hmm. Teen Wolf has one scene which made me almost lose my mind when I was 15. But this one, no nice talking her through it, no nice interaction.
He's just
licking.
I mean, I can get licking like whatever parts you want in like a sexual context, but not in this situation.
And I guess like the act of kissing away a tear feels so like almost innocent and
like
very nice and gentle.
You know?
But to lick it?
And not just one tear. All the tears. And it's not like it makes her face dry because licking is wet. She's just wetter than before now.
I have to say this now, and probably not many people can relate, but I'm not like the fondest fan of dogs because I always fear they will lick all over my face. And this is just the association that I have with this. That he goes there and is like...
Maybe he's more like a deer than a dog because they like to lick salt.
Also goats.
Yeah, very goat-like. Very goat-coded Rhysand here.
Rhysand is the goat.
Anyways, maybe we should just move on. As Faerie tells him he's a disgusting bastard, Rhysand proceeds to set up Book 2. As he says, I've been thinking about ways to torment you when you come to my court. I'm wondering, will assigning you to read be as painful as it looked today? So I guess that'll happen. Again, after that he just vanishes. And Faerie is left thinking, he may not know it, but Rhysand was the only thing that kept her from shattering completely.
She apparently falls for men who she thinks that have saved her. Because, like, with Tamlin, she was like, he saved me from the evil treaty. I'm not dead. And now she's like, Rhysand, he saved me from actual danger. Kind of.
I don't know if this is like, I'm starting to like him yet. I think this is just a dry realization of, if he hadn't come, I would have spiraled downwards even further. But I agree that I really see the seeds for a future loving relationship, and I don't know. I liked him. I still think he's a fun character to read, a charismatic character. But now he's also an abusive character again. And why can't we just have non-abusive fun characters?
I don't know.
I don't have anything to add to that.
It's just because I have this thought, I have to get back to this licking thing again. Because she's like, he effectively kept me from shattering. And it's so out of the blue, this licking thing, and so startling that she's brought out of her spiral. And I'm not this was a good choice. but it's it worked. Yeah, I'm not good job, Rhysand. But it did work. No, not good job. Just job. Yeah, I have to say, I'm not at a point of I'm gonna hate on Rhysand now. Because with Tamlin, it was a build-up to get to the point where I'm Tamlin. And it was more of a disappointment moment for me. It was no, why?
Yeah, with Tamlin, we couldn't really be disappointed because we expected nothing less from him.
And he gave us even less.
But I agree, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, I once again do not know where this is going. So I'm not mad, really. I'm just here. What's going on? I don't know.
I guess we will find out, because we only have 6 chapters left now.
So exciting!
3 episodes!
I guess 3 episodes. After reading this first chapter for today, I thought, do we want to split this up? this might end up as a long episode, but I think that's fine. We're just gonna have long episodes now. I mean, it's more content. I hope you listeners can forgive us
for talking a lot. And hopefully you enjoyed listening to us for this longer time. And if you do, please consider leaving a review, maybe even 5 stars, or recommending us to your friends and family, or just some guy you meet on the street, maybe a gal. I don't know, whatever. Or a non-binary pal.
Just someone.
Just someone.
Scream it from the rooftops. Listen to Getting Fae'd, so that maybe one day we will be big enough to invite Sarah J. Maas on this podcast and ask her, what's with the licking? What's with the biting? Just,
Go lick your cats and dogs so they can feel loved.
They're actually like, you can order tongues, like artificial tongues, to lick your pets so that they have the association.
You can
of
also
being
use
licked by
a
their
toothbrush.
parents. Yeah. But you can also order artificial tongues.
This episode is not sponsored by artificial tongues.
But if any artificial tongue producers want to sponsor us,
Reach
we're
out.
open.
This is
Reach
the right
out.
place.
gettingfaedpod@gmail.com. Come at us.
And if you do not want to sponsor us, but just see some highlights, you can also check out our socials at Getting Fae'd Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And you can also slide in our DMs and send us some theories or feedback. But please, please, please do not send any spoilers, because we'd like to go on with this project. And that is not possible if we know what's happening.
Yes, we will wiggle our fingers in disappointment if we get a spoiler.
And I will find you.
And lick you. Or not if you like licking.
So, I guess we will see you next time when we're
Getting Fae'd!